Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. We are at the top of the hour. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome back or welcome for your first time to Platform Analytics Academy. Glad that you all are here. We have a jam-packed session today, so I want to try to get through logistical information as fast as I can so I can pass it over. So as usual, this information is for you. We try to bring fresh ideas, better understanding, and practical guidance. The really great thing about the session today is we're bringing future release information and new release information from San Diego today. So again, a lot of great information coming today. This is recorded, so sit back and enjoy. Don't feel like you have to take notes. Of course you can if you want, but this will be recorded and be out on the community and our YouTube page as well. Feel free to ask questions. All we ask is that you ask them in the Q&A section of the Zoom call if you can, rather than the chat. We will have other people on the call to answer questions as we can as we go through it. If it is something that we want to do at the particular time, then I will halt the speaker and we'll try to ask that question. So speaking of speakers and presenters today, I, of course, am Thomas Davis. I am the host. But we have Amit and Marta that's here today. Amit will be doing the first part, and because, again, it is jam-packed, hopefully we can get to the information that Marta has. But if not, that's okay, because we actually have a part 2 of this that'll be happening on March 23rd. So, again, a lot of great information that we're coming out with today. And like I said, we do have other panelists on. So Adam Stout and Dan Kane are here as well. So if they can answer questions along with myself while the presentation is going on, we'll do that in the Q&A via typing that out to you. We will try to answer all of the questions that are pertaining to the content first, but if there are other questions that come in and they need to be done live, we'll try to get to those at the end. If they come in while the session is going and one of us panelists can get to it, we'll answer that for you as well. So with no further ado, I want to go ahead and pass this over to Amit so he can go ahead and start going over new release information for San Diego. Amit, you ready?
So this is our agenda. San Diego is going to be a feature-heavy release, but I'm going to focus only on the main parts related to forecasts, targets, and KPI details related enhancements. So let me dive right into the forecast related enhancements. Most of it is under the hood. That means we are trying to improve the models to make the forecasting that much more accurate in terms of actual predictive capability, as well as increasing the confidence that we have, which we measure by that confidence band around the forecast region. So all of this increases the reliability in terms of what we are forecasting, and it feeds into the other applications that are using these forecasting algorithms. So you probably will not be seeing any changes, but some of the models have been enhanced to use more data points to be that much more accurate. And we have deprecated a couple of old methods which were great, but we have replaced them with a couple of new ones which are even more accurate. So in summary, these were the 6 out-of-the-box models which we used to have available for forecasting. You could choose between linear, drift, a couple of naive models, seasonal, and random forest. We are deprecating drift completely and replacing naive seasonal and naive seasonal drift with seasonal and seasonal trend. You do not have to be an expert at all of this because none of this will actually be visible to you very much upfront, hopefully. All you will see is much more improved forecasts whenever you are looking at the trends for future of your KPI time series. Couple of things if you do want to understand what is going on. So there were, in summary, some of the models were using only 2 data points, the first data point and the last data points in the latest season of the forecasting period. Now with this enhanced models, they will take in all the data points available. Depending on how many data points, that will depend on which model you are choosing. But again, like I mentioned, most of it is under the hood. Over on the UX, the end user, you will only see the difference in terms of what all models are available to you to pick from when you are actually setting up your KPI indicator. So the indicator form will have these new models. Auto will continue to work as expected. So instead of choosing from the 6 old ones, it will pick up from these 5 new models that we have. The best fit will be automatically selected. And for those who actually configured it to use drift model specifically, the one which we deprecated, during upgrade, the fixed scripts are there to take care of it, and they will automatically upgrade it to linear model, which will be that much more accurate. So, but based on our research, we feel like there are extremely few instances of that in production where a KPI is specially configured to use drift. But nonetheless, anyway, so that was forecast mostly into the background, but you will see how it feeds into a couple of other features across the platform offerings or other BU offerings that that make use of this forecasting algorithms. Moving on to the target enhancement, which is going to use one of those new improved forecasting methods. But before that, a little bit of context. You probably are already using targets. It has been available in KPI details since Paris. And on the platform, well before that, you use it for planning, monitoring, and progressing towards a goal that you may set. And all of it you can do from within KPI details. So whenever you are looking at any particular KPI, you can set and monitor targets for it from right there. Also, you can do it from outside of KPI details, because targets by itself is a separate component, which in the next experience world, where you can embed it within your custom experiences when you are designing one, like workforce optimization manager workspace, something which we ship out of the box. Well, for certain packages that uses targets. So a manager is tracking 4 different KPIs. She can set and monitor and edit targets right from her workflow without ever having to deep diving into KPI details for that. So in San Diego, one of the coolest features we have implemented is allowing you to move from descriptive to predictive. So instead of doing a root cause analysis post hoc, you can actually take preventive action in advance if you know if you are not going to meet your target. So we tell you in advance if you are going to meet your target, if you are on track, or if you are off track to meeting a specific target. But this is just one of the highlight features. There are a bunch of improvements on targets. I'm going to focus on this too, the KPI picker and the target status. We'll go in detail of both of these. Now, when you are using targets in a KPI details or an analytics hub, you are already within the context of a particular KPI. So when you are monitoring number of open incidents and you want to set a target, you know you are setting a target for number of open incidents. But the example I showed you, where you are using targets component, the targets feature outside of KPI details in maybe a custom experience, say you are monitoring CSAT or a mean time to resolve or closed cases, all of it together. So when you are trying to set a new target over here, you need to specify the context. Which KPI is it that you want to set the target for or edit the target for? So this use case is now supported by this couple of new fields which we have introduced in the targets component. You can see there's KPI list available. This is a plain JSON list, so you can specify your indicators society along with the name, which probably is suitable for your experience. It does not have to be the name which you define in the indicator form. Feel free to use any which makes sense in that context, in the context of that experience you are designing, and it will be available to pick from. Uh, Let me show a demo to you. Hopefully, I am sharing what is the UI builder. Can you please pause me, Thomas, if I'm not sharing the right screen. But right now I'm
You're
sharing
sharing.
UI
You're good.
Builder. Perfect. So this is UI Builder. This is where we design pages for next experience. And right now I have just pulled in a KPI targets component on a blank page. I've just dropped it in. And this is the field I was talking about. You see KPI list. This is a JSON file. Not sure if you can see this. Let me enable word wrap. Okay. So you can see this is ID. This is the SysID of the indicator that you want to have available at runtime for the user to pick from when she is setting a new target. And you can define your own name. So number of open incidents, it can very well, you can call it number of open cases, whatever is suitable really for your use case. And you set this. And here I have that same page open. If I refresh it now, and I should have a drop-down available when I'm trying to create a new target. So this is what I use to create a new target. And you see, you can select from number of resolved incidents, average case of open incidents, etc. You can choose anyone and you can set the targets. There are a couple of cosmetic changes you might have noticed. Right now, we used to have a global target and a personal target. We still have those, but now it's much better called out for everyone. This is global, of course. And when you are selecting a target for me, that is your personal target. So these are a couple of minor enhancements here and there, which are already part of it. If I remove this KPI list completely, this is an optional field. So, well, I'll just edit it out. Apply. Okay. When you pull up a component, it is blank by default. So hopefully null should also work. Let me refresh. So in this case, you should not be seeing any dropdown at all. So it will be a plain vanilla target component. Yep, you do not have the picker available. So that's the target picker. Moving on to the next one, the target status. Now, target status is offered both within the target card itself, so that when you are actually using the targets outside of KPI details, you can still have a context of how far you are from the target. Are you off track or on track? And also when you are analyzing a particular KPI within KPI details, you still see this information right at top left section, what we call the KPI summary. So along with all the rest of the target details, what is the target, what is the gap, you also see this badge now, you are off track or on track. Now how does this work? So
Hey,
essentially,
Amit, I'm sorry. We're
yes,
still
Thomas.
on the target dash tab. Is that where we should be as you're speaking?
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have switched to PPT. Give me a second. Yeah, this is where we were, and this is what I was talking about. So we show this targets on the cards themselves, as well as on the KPI details summary section. So this is what I was talking about, and I was going to explain how does this work. So it works by comparing the target value, whatever your target is, and the forecasted score on the review date. Now you can imagine this is where an accurate forecast is that much more important, and it is where we are using those improvements in the forecasting models. So what happens is, let's say you are trying to monitor a target for number of open incidents, which should be as minimum as possible, but you have set it for 50 open incidents, let's say, to be achieved by March end. And the forecast says that you are going to have 20 open incidents by month end, which is great. So the system will consider that to be on track. You are on track for that particular target. Instead, if you are expected to have 60 open incidents, which is more than what you targeted, 50, the system will mark you as off track, and it will you can take corrective action on that. You probably would want to spend more resources on fixing number of open incidents. Similarly, for past targets, it is defined as met or not met based on the comparison of the actual score and the target value on the review date. So when I say past targets, I mean for all those targets whose review date have already passed, because that's when you are expected to go back and see how did you do on the targets you defined. Now, calculations, of course, will be reversed for indicators which are set to maximize, and that logic is handled internally. A couple of other things we are doing here is providing you information about gaps, how likely, because when you miss a particular target, not all misses are the same. Sometimes you may miss by just 1%, which might be okay, and it's not as bad as missing it by 14%. So that's the information we tell you, that you are likely to miss the target, and this is likely the gap you will have on the day when you actually on the review date. So you are likely to miss it by 8% or 2%. So you can see how urgent it is. Is it even worth taking an action, or how urgently you require an action? For the past targets, that is the targets whose review dates have already reached, you can see they are met or not met, but you do not actually have to go down to KPI details and that particular day to see what was the actual score. We give that information right there, so you can compare that your target was 50, but your final score was this. So you can have more confidence in the status of what we are showing it to you. And all of this is controlled. You can still choose not to have this target status displayed in the target component. Although it's an amazing feature, and I would really like to know if you choose to turn it off, but you can turn it off from the target component itself using this button. Let me jump back to that UI builder. So right now you see all of this target components configuration. These are all well delineated. So you can see all the options related to how the information is presented in this grid section. What we are interested in, the target status, which is displayed in the card section. So you have it under cards. So if I turn it on, you see the targets are turned on, the status is turned on, and if I refresh it at this point, the target dashboard, and hopefully we will have, well, show me all the targets. Yeah, we do have the targets available and the status and the gap.
Hey, Amit, we had a question come in that's relevant at this point. So it says, are those same target features available in the Analytics Hub under Performance Analytics, or are they only in the Workspace UI Builder?
Well, target status is currently only on the Next Experience in the UI Builder on Seismic. It's not available in Analytics Hub.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now, a couple of notes on how does this work. Of course, since it depends on the comparison of the forecasted score and the target value on the review date. So it only makes sense that it will only work if the forecasts are available for the review date. It may so happen that the review date is far too ahead in future, in which case you will see that, well, it's too early to calculate. The forecast is not generated yet for that far ahead. Or you may not have enough data to actually even generate a forecast. Or if the review date is not defined, the system would not know when to compare the forecast for. Or the indicator direction also needs to be defined. Sometimes this is always a good practice. You should always have the direction defined for an indicator, because of course that makes more sense. That's how you measure you are doing good or bad. Or otherwise, it's just a high value, whether it's good or bad. you would not know. One more thing to note, that this target status feature is only available for global targets for now. It is not available for personal targets, and the color codes are not configurable. It's coming from the target color variables already defined in theme. There is no way you can customize it from the component. Okay, moving on to KPI details. We have made a bunch of improvements here as well. And those of you who have not heard about it, it's the analog of Analytics Hub, but on the next experience, has been available on the platform since Paris, and it really helps you do what Analytics Hub did: analyze your indicator trends over time, drill down to the specific records for the specific scores, and manage targets and improve your processes in general, all in one single workflow. And it has a bunch of other features apart from what you had in Analytics Hub. So feel free to give it a spin if you haven't already. But in San Diego, we have improved. There's a bunch of new features. The main ones, of course, the next experience theming support is there, which Martha is going to touch upon later. Then we have the component configuration. Let me jump right in. So on component configuration side, we have made it that much more flexible, and that has been our push for all the components that we are offering, including targets. So you can see the configuration options are bunched together in a more organized way, and there are more options as well. For example, if you have a data visualization and it is configured to click through to KPI details, there was a demand that we heard that people wanted to drill down to records view in KPI details instead of just going to a detailed trend chart view. Now you can select that behavior. So while setting up KPI details, you can choose the default view as chart view or record view. So whenever you click on it, you will open on that format. Then there is the default date range option, which we offered this release. What happens is, let's say you are looking at the trend in your data visual on your landing page for number of open incidents for first quarter of 2022. If you click on it, come to KPI details, you would probably want to retain that same period that you were looking at, that is the quarter one of 2022, rather than having it expand to all the scores it has and then manually zoom in into the area which you were looking at. So if you are actually pairing KPI details with one of those components which can pass date range, you can script it to pass those details on click-through as a payload, or you can define a custom date range yourself. Then there are a couple of new features which control the layouts. Statistics is there, so you can control the layout of stats as well. We'll touch upon that later. And of course, you can turn off the target status badge on the summary section on top left as well. Statistics, as we know, we have been offering as a at a glance view summary of the process health of the indicator for any specific period that you are interested in. And it's very interactive. The great part is you can select any time range and you can immediately see what was the average score, what was it like in general in that period. So it gives you that granularity, but sometimes it can be crowding the interface, or it might just not be helpful in that particular situation, or some particular user may just not like it. So this time around, we have offered a per indicator control for the end users themselves, so they can toggle off the stats option, the feature per indicator. You can it's stored as your preference. You will not see stats for that particular indicator when you come around to it next time in KPI details. And of course, admins, while setting up KPI details itself, they can choose a different layout. There is an option between vertical or a horizontal layout now, depending on how your experience is going to look like. This you can control from the view settings of KPI details. Statistics orientation is the field. You can choose between horizontal and vertical. Let me show it to you. This is UI builder, and I'm on a page which ships out of the box as KPI details. I'm looking at the different configuration options. This is what I was talking about, the date field. We have the date range, start date, end date over here. The one which you are interested in is statistics orientation, horizontal versus vertical. Right now it's horizontal. So this is how it looks like. If I go to chart option, turn on the stats for this, I can see the stats right here. And they are also well placed depending on what kind of stats they are. So they are segregated in their own bunch. But if I turn it to vertical, well, it should just change the view. This is one of the cosmetic flexibility we offered while setting up this, while bringing this stats feature on KPI details. And whenever you make these changes on chart options, these are all stored in your DS preferences list. So it does not impact your Analytics Hub. You can continue using your own preferences over there while having a different set of preferences for next experiences. So those do not collide. This is how it looks like. For the time being, I prefer horizontal. I'll just turn it off for now. Moving on, yes, the target status, we already talked about it. Over here in this format, earlier we were looking at on the target card. Right now here, the experience is different, so we have that much more room to play with, and that's what we offer. So any first user encountering this kind of status for the first time, we give her a hint of how this status is being calculated. So on hover, there is a nice little message which is displayed up top, which says like forecasted score on the review date of such and such is going to be higher or lesser than the target value. That's why the system thinks that you are off track or on track. And it also suggests that you turn on the forecast if you have not, so that you can actually visually verify yourself. And again, this feature is controlled through the additional settings and the target status badge toggle. You can toggle it off. By default, it's toggled on. So going back to UIB, under additional settings, we have this target status badge. Let me change the scope to that of the application. Turn off the target status badge. Did I save? Yes, I did. And you see the met here. Now the target status will be gone, and you will have the standard set of target details available to you. Next up is, again, related to targets, but related to bulk targets. Now, this is something we released in the previous family release, Rome. And this catered to the use case when you want to manage targets for 15 or 20 of the assignment groups that you are responsible for out of, let's say, 50 or 60 that you have. So earlier, what you used to have to do is go to that particular assignment group, select that, set the target, change the assignment group, do it all over again and again and again. So in Rome, we offered you this one screen shortcut to assign multiple or do this bulk editing of these targets with this screen, add targets to breakdowns. Here, and you could select and edit or create multiple targets in one single pane, and that was incredibly efficient. This time around, we added a filter over here, the time aggregate filter, because once you have a bunch of targets available, it kind of gets a little bit difficult to understand which target is it that you want to change. And since this is a bulk screen, you probably would want a final control over which targets do you want to edit. So this is available now. Also, this is a feedback which we received when we were discussing this feature with you. And some of you felt that while auto-calculated targets, wherein you could specify that I want to set a new target, which is a 15% improvement over the last month average score. This kind of auto-calculated targets, while good, but they could exceed some logical bounds. So it may calculate a target to be something like 125, which may either not make sense or be incredibly ambitious. So you suggested that there should be some sort of guardrails, a maximum minimum value, which the users can optionally specify. And the
Hey, a minute, I'm sorry, excuse me. Are you talking to a slide again? Because we're still on.
I am talking to the slide.
Okay, we're not seeing that slide. We're still seeing KPI details and now experience.
I'm sorry about that. Let me just change that.
There you go. Thank you.
This is the screen I was on. So this is what I was talking about, that the guardrails for auto-calculated target. I was just speaking to the screen, so you have not missed much. Now, the question was, the auto-calculated targets sometimes can go into illogical or very, very over ambitious kind of target. So if the system auto-calculates a target of 15% improvement as 125, which can be too high, the suggestion was that we provide some sort of way to restrict those targets to within a bound. So if it goes beyond that bound, it will cut it off at 105. And this is exactly how it works. Let me show it to you, in fact. So I'm switching to the demo, opening the target. This is where you go to target setting in bulk. When you create a new target, you can choose which breakdown you want to select the target for. Let's say I'm going to select assignment group, this, and this. You can use a filter to select a bunch of them. Select next. And here is where I select auto-calculated target. So I want to improve my score by some percentage over the score, average score between this and this. So between the last weeks. And I want to decrease it by, say, 50%. These are the two fields which are new. So I can define if I want to have a minimum target value. So I can set it to be something like 10, if that makes logical sense for me. And I can optionally have a maximum value as well. All of those are optional fields, so use it as you want. And I can just add these targets. And this will be restricted. You see, some of these are cut off at 10 because it probably hit the lower bound and the system automatically respected those boundaries that you decided and kept it at 10. So this is a fail-safe for doing auto-calculated targets in bulk, which is, I feel, is very, very helpful. Switching back to the slide again. This was min-max value. And of course, now you get a notification in case of failures. So what used to happen in the earlier release, that there was a hard limit set in the backend at, I think, 100 or so of breakdowns at a time. You could not go beyond that. And whenever there was some sort of error, let's say you set an auto-calculated target on an average score value, but the scores were not available. In those cases, something would fail and you would not know. Now, we provide you a notification right on that same screen whenever some failures happen. And there is a link which you can click on Show Records, which will show you exactly which targets were supposed to be created, but actually failed. And you can actually click show all to go back to showing list of all the targets which were created successfully. And all of these messages will still be available when you come back to this target configuration screen. So that means this entire process is now asynchronous. So you can very well set targets for 200, 300 breakdown elements. And while the system takes a couple of minutes to create those targets, you can still go and continue doing what you were doing. And you can still anytime come back to this configuration screen, and the messages and error notifications, if any, will still be available. So that's pretty powerful. You will not be blocked while creating these targets in bulk.
Hey, Amit, real quick, sorry. So a question came in that said the two fields, first score and last score, must that be in the past?
The first score and last score. Let me switch to the demo. And when I was selecting the first score and last score, that has to be in the past. Yes. The reason is you are, let me just demonstrate this one. So you are suggesting the system to calculate a 10 units improvement or 10% improvements over the average score. Now, this average score has to be provided, and average score will have to be from the past, because you cannot calculate an average score of the future. They have not been captured yet.
Great, thank you.
I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does.
But feel free. Okay.
And for a time check perspective, we are at 12:38.
Oh, okay. So we are almost towards the end. Responsible users, this is the last feature we have in KPI details. And the idea is a bunch of times subject matter experts are responsible for a bunch of things about the processes, like defining the targets, not necessarily in the system, but definitely having a say on what the target should be, and acting on signals or informing, keeping everyone informed. But a bunch of these activities require admin roles, which means either they do not do it frequently enough, or they lean on to admins, system admins or PA admins, who probably would rather spend their time on more strategic initiatives rather than getting bogged down by these requests. So that's where responsibility comes in. With the responsibility, what happens is you can make any user with any role responsible for managing a specific PA object. So that means you can assign the responsibility for managing the targets for only networks related open incidents, for example, without giving them the PA target admin role, which would be otherwise required. So, but they would still not be able to create global targets for any other breakdown except for the one you have specifically assigned them the responsible user as. The first time, of course, this target needs to be created by an admin, and somebody needs to be made responsible. But after that, the responsible user can themselves make somebody else responsible as their stand-in when they're not around, maybe, or they can remove responsibility from themselves, assign it to somebody else. This entire thing can happen on after on by SME themselves. The target admins or the PA admins do not need to be involved for this. Let me go back to the same screen. So here, let me see. I'm logged in currently as an admin user, and I'm looking at Beth Anglin, who is our user. And you can see I have done a role search for her on PA, and she does not have target admin role. So that means she should not be able to create global targets, or that means targets for everyone. And this is exactly what will happen if I, or in fact, let me just assign the responsibility to Beth Anglin. We'll see that she can create targets after that. So I'll go to targets. This is where you assign the responsibility. You go to responsibility tab, and you choose which target specifically is that you want to assign the responsibility for. So let's say for networks category, right now there is no responsible user. So I can add one. I can add Beth here as one of the responsible users. I can add more, but for now, I'll just go with Beth. Now Beth is responsible for networks, number of open incidents. Let's switch to Beth Anglin and see. So I'll refresh the page. And now I'm logged in as Beth. And now if I go and try to set a target for, let's say, networks, let's do it for inquiry, because I have not set her as an admin for this one. So if I go here, I see a message that you do not have the appropriate right to create a global target for inquiry. But instead, if I select network, she should be able to. So this, you can see now she can create a new target for everyone for networks category. So I can very well say 30 and give it a new start date, say March 1st, and create this target. So this reduces the load from PA admin and enables the persona or the SME persona to take actions on their own. So in short, I'll just leave you with this thing. It's the components are that much more flexible to set up KPI details and targets. The statistics is now fully supported in KPI details, along with the end user control of whether you want to disable it or enable it per indicator. We can have multiple targets capability. You can have multiple target capability without breaking your workflow. It's all asynchronous, and you have the guardrails for auto-calculated targets, and you have proactive notifications or intimation whether you are on track or off track to meet a target. That's mine. And any questions at this point?
Yeah, Amit. Yes, this is Dan. We had one question, and I think I know the answer, but and you can correct me if I'm wrong. The question is, why not just assign the target admin role to a user rather than using the responsibility? And my understanding is that really the big difference is the target admin can do any targets, as opposed to the responsibility is that you're limiting it to specific types of targets.
Precisely, that's correct, Dan. That's correct. So if I could make Beth a PA target admin, but then she probably would have, not probably, she would definitely have the rights to edit and modify or create new targets for any of the groups. And sometimes it's this kind of wide access is not required. You probably would want to nominate some specific person responsible for specific groups as the responsible person, and they can very well do this without this wide so this is more granular, this permission.
I think there's an add to that as well, that if you have an admin, you're an admin, I don't need to get a lot of notifications, but I'm responsible. You now you could use that in your workflows. You can use that in whether notifications or go update your targets. I want to go, I don't want to email, I don't want to tell the target admin, go update all these targets for things you don't own. But I might put in a workflow to say, hey, the upcoming quarter is coming up. Let's set our Q2 targets and hit the responsible person for each of the targets and the indicators.
Absolutely, Adam, and that's great. You brought it up. So all the responsible users are stored as part of the target records itself. That means you can set up your own workflow out of it, and it can be anything. If you have a target status you are not going to meet or this kind of notification, you can trigger a notification to the responsible user instead of that notification going to the PA admin, who probably would not know what to do with that notification. So yes, that's there.
And then another question came in. It says, would it be possible to create targets dependent on breakdown value? For example, different groups as a breakdown would have different targets on the same indicator?
Yes, absolutely. It has been possible. So let me see if I get this right. You mean if you have a target KPI like number of open incidents, you want to have different target for number of open incidents for assignment group 1, assignment group 2, and assignment group 3, and something else altogether. If that is the case, yes, you
I
can
believe
use
that's
it.
what he's talking about. Yes. He said exactly that is what he's talking about.
Perfect. Okay. If there are no more questions, I'll hand it over to Martha.
Yeah, I think what we're going to do is we're going to move Marta because she has quite a bit as well. So I think what we'll do is we'll just move Marta to, because this is a 2-part session. So we'll move Marta to 2 weeks from now to make sure that she has enough time and we're not trying to jam 20 minutes worth into 10 minutes or so. So we're going to move her to the next one. So we can, I don't know if there's anything else that you want to share at this point now, Amit, or we can open up to questions. But I would like to say, if there is nothing more that you have at this point, Amit, I always do like to go to Adam quickly because he does have different thoughts on things that come out. So I don't know if there's anything that he wants to add to anything that you have talked about up to this point. Adam?
I don't have much. This is great stuff to see. I think the encouragement I have for everybody is you see we're putting a tremendous amount of effort into Next Experience, and with San Diego, there's a lot of other things that are coming to help you get to Next Experience, and that all of this comes in with how do we get to Next Experience, what's coming on. So make sure, even though we're often just focused on PA and reporting and analytics, you're having a conversation with your process owners, with your platform owners, to go, what is our plan to get into workspaces, to get into Next Experience? We're not going to push you out of the classic lists and forms and dashboards, but there's so much you're going to get when you get into the newer stuff.
Definitely agree with that, Adam. Amit, is there anything else that you want to talk to or share or anything?
I think I briefly touched upon everything which is there. This is most of it. But if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer it.
Okay. So getting a lot of compliments coming through on what we're seeing. So good stuff. Let's see. We do have one question that is unrelated, but I want to make sure that if there's any other ones that are, there's any other questions that are related to the content that we covered, then please go ahead and ask those.
I'm going to put a plug in here too for Next Experience. So we're talking about that. I referred to as Next Experience. We're talking about what's new in platform analytics in this session, and in a couple of weeks. There's a lot of other content out there right now. If you check the forum, there's a great center of expertise about Next Experience. Lots of content out there for you. I think we'll have some more training coming up a little bit post release. So keep your eyes open for it, and listen and make sure you're paying attention to anything with Next Experience and the UIB material that's out there. That's there as well. If you haven't looked at it, you need to look at it. You need to get familiar with it, understand the capabilities well beyond platform analytics, and take the opportunity to start to get to know UIB. There's a lot there. It's technical. We're making stuff easier as we go along. So you may or may not jump towards it now, but you certainly want to make sure you're looking at it and understand when you're going to be able to convert over, what you're going to be able to convert over. From the analytics perspective, you just get so much, but it does have to be a part of the entire plan for your process and your application that you're using. I'm going to quickly go get that center of expertise that I referenced, and I should have done that before we got it. So I'll hand it back over to Thomas to some more of the questions while I go search the web real quick.
Okay, great. Yeah, so the one question real quick, I think, Amit, you're getting that one. So one question came in that is unrelated, but it talks about are there any out-of-the-box indicator for metrics associated with SE tasks? I've seen rhythms and incidents, but can't find tasks. Excuse me, I can't talk. So I don't know that there are any that are out of the box. I know that, asking a question like this in the community, you would probably find that there are some that have been created by other customers. And then also, Dan brought up a great point, and Dan, you're more than welcome to speak to it, but I know that the Ideal Portal is probably a great place for something like this. Is that what you were alluding to, Dan?
Yes. Yeah. That's it's one good little plug for that the team that develops the IT service management applications is the one that actually manages the dashboards that go along with it, the out-of-the-box dashboards. So you don't necessarily have to tag, you could just tag dashboards or whatever in the Idea Portal, but we want to make sure that it actually gets to that team. So if you put something in the Idea Portal, it might even be helpful if you then even link to it on the community page for the Academy here, so that we could all take a look and make sure that we could maybe update it and make sure it gets tagged.
Okay, great. And Adam got that URL, so I'm going to post that. Oh, he's going to beat me to it. We're just going to do it at the same time. Thanks, Adam. Okay, and Amit is answering that question there. So I don't see any more coming in, but Dan, I'll ask you the same question or open it up for you the same way that I did Adam. Is there anything that you'd like to add to what Amit has shared today?
No, I think this is fantastic. So I really appreciate it.
Another question came in here. Is there an issue with publishing all of your indicators to the Analytics Hub? Could there be a performance issue? I know Adam always loves talking to performance. So
yeah. I'll bring this one up. So there's two issues. So one, I know we used to have a potential performance issue because in Analytics Hub, those Analytics Hub. Analytics Hub, I think, has the issue because if you do something like sort by performance, it has to go get all of the data. It has to go get, the last 90 periods from every indicator you have. If you have 1,000 indicators, you got a problem. And so there can be a performance issue. I know we're working on some things to make that better, but I'll go more importantly, you don't want to do that because we use a lot of formula indicators and we have to have base indicators to get them. So they have things like average time to resolve is one formula indicator, but I have two base indicators, the number of incidents resolved and the sum of time to resolve. I don't care about those two things. Nobody should ever care. Formula. So make sure you are diligent about what is something somebody's going to want to browse to. And my experience is I don't browse anything. I'm going to go to a dashboard and it's going to show me service catalog metrics. I'm going to go to a dashboard and it's going to show me my incident problem change metrics, but for a group, for the group that I'm managing. And I don't just go to Analytics Hub and browse. Analytics. So Analytics Hub I know has an Analytics Center, can have the issue as well. I don't see it as practical to do all the time. So just be sure it's something that you want everybody to see. The other use case we run into is that something we're collecting daily, but we never, as an organization, we never talk about it daily. We talk about it weekly and monthly. And so if I publish it daily, then somebody might be seeing something that's not super important. Maybe like SLA attainment. I do have it daily, but we measure it monthly and we'll look at it weekly. So just be diligent about what you're publishing. You should be able to publish it as much as you want, but I don't think everything is what you'd want to publish.
Yeah, and Adam, I don't know if you saw, Hope added a couple extra things to that, but I think that you probably spoke to it well. So we have the publishing one. I see the other one that came in here about multiple breakdown filters at a time that Marta is already answering. Yeah, Marta's answering that.
Marta, do you want to come off mute and mention that? Because I think that's something that everybody's
absolutely.
interested in.
Yes, we have heard that asked multiple times. We are currently working in the next experience and for the UI builder also in to a new dashboard editing experience that will allow you to place multiple filters both on above the tabs and inside the tabs, so that you will have like more filters. At the same time, since we are talking mostly about PA, that it's highly correlated to the work that we are doing on changing and updating the model that we have on how we collect data with PA and how we store the analytics sources. So if you are maybe interested more in that, like also reach out and we are going towards a new way of storing analytics data and creating analytics sources that will also solve the kind of limitation that we have on the number of breakdowns that we currently have.
Okay, great. Thank you. We are about a couple minutes out from the top of the hour. So if we did not, I think we may have got to all of them, but real quickly, just to kind of touch base on some things here before we close out. So as usual, always make sure you check out the community and ask more questions there. So, and it's not just us that answers questions. There's other customers in the community that do very good jobs at answering questions. So make sure you check them out. Of course, this will be out later on this afternoon. And of course, you can get to any of the previous ones as well. So make sure that you're visiting there. Always go to Now Learning. Really good stuff in Now Learning. You should have an account if you don't. And when you go there, you can definitely look, as you see here, search for analytics, and you'll see everything that's there. And with that, just real quickly, wanted to plug that there are some more PA Advanced on-demand courses that are out there, and that is the community article there that you can actually get to it, and it speaks in depth about that. So check that article out as well. This will be, the slide deck will be, or this link will be in the event itself, so you'll be able to get to it. And of course, we always want to plug other great Academy sessions that are out there, Creator, Workflow, and Platform Academy, along with mobile app and virtual agent. So we actually did conversational analytics last time, and a lot of that is in the virtual agent. So hopefully, if you were here 2 weeks ago, he plugged going to there. So maybe you're checking that out as well now. And then again, like I said, in 2 weeks, we're going to do this again with Marta, and also Olga are going to go over some more features that are coming in San Diego as well. So with that, if we don't have anything else, thank you for coming. Thank you for interacting with questions, and hopefully you got some great information out of this, and you're all excited and looking forward to upgrading to San Diego when that happens. So with that, thank you, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.